my sales time. Gonna bust up your behind. This is my sales time. Gonna mess up your whole mind. This is my sales time. Gonna bust up your behind. This is my sales time. Gonna mess up your whole mind.
Welcome. Work the left side. I'm hyped to announce tonight's guest. I know him as James. You all will know him as the BlackHeart champion, Mr. Henri Winter. How are we doing, buddy? You good?
I'm very good, mate. You?
Oh, dude, 5x5. Too blessed to be stressed. Everything is gravy. So, yeah, man, I'm all good. So, obviously, as we kind of, I made reference to there, dude, I've known you for years. You're just Jay, aka James, because that never really talked to James.
Tried too hard. Tried way too hard to make that take as well. It wasn't what I pushed it beyond.
It was too hard.
I tell you what's worse, mate, if I'm honest. So my family know me as Jamie, and for a while I tried to push Jamie, just spelt J-M-E, which was even worse. Like that's the pits. Like I really tried to push Jimmy as a thing, and luckily it didn't come back around when we were thinking wrestling names. Thankfully that stayed buried, but I did really try and force that for a while.
Can you imagine BlackHeart champion Jimmy?
Yeah, not the one, mate, not the one at all. It seemed really cool. Fit like the skater vibe that I was trying to, like, preteen James was going for, but yeah, not good at all.
But obviously, like, so, when we talked about it, like, obviously, I've known you, met you years ago through work. Never talked wrestling while we knew each other at work. I don't think either of us knew we were really into it. And then obviously, I met you at a Tidal show years later. It was like, oh shit, awesome, cool. And then so it began, the wrestling aspect of our friendship, and even me an amazing Kevin Owens article for when Work the Left Side was on written form, when it was in paper, when it was a fanzine.
I absolutely loved doing that as well. That was so good. I got way too into it though. Like there was so many sleepless nights. I had like notes. It looked like that. It looked like Charlie in the mailroom in It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. There was just stuff everywhere. I was making connections. I think at one point in it, I think in the actual final thing, I talk about Jacques Villeneuve and Gilles Villeneuve for some. Like I just went down this weird Canadian rabbit hole. But yeah, that Tidal show is interesting because that's where we'd stopped working together and we sort of bumped into each other outside. But that's the first BritWres show that I ever attended. It wasn't a thing that to me, wrestling was always WWF, WCW. That's as sort of wide as my scope ever was. And then I was at Ghost Fest, as it used to be called, in the same, but in like the Met Bar and things, and saw an advert for Tidal, and me and a friend were just like, no way, British wrestling, that's not a thing. And went down. I talked to Sean Only about this show an awful lot. Like the most over thing on the crowd in the crowd that day was the disabled lift. That was super popular at this point. I think they may have in that show, it may have been one of the few that they used the six-sided ring as well. If I recall, I think they were still using that. But yeah, that was my very first BritWres. So really, that started my that's a thing here. So that started my BritWres fandom, and then that was what opened like, there's places that I can go and do this thing. That's weird. So yeah, that Tidal show was massive, really.
Dude, the lift. I remember the disabled lift. It would be a case of like, get him in the lift, in the lift, in the lift. And then
so over.
Like, the lift is a bag of wank. It doesn't actually work. There's no way. Like even when the lift came down, how that if you actually thought and through sober eyes,
that lift.
Like that lift's not even functional. It don't even work. What the hell is the point of this lift? So
not good.
And then the rest.
It was so over. That venue was really good though. That vibe, that like aesthetic of, because it was really high-sided. That like, you were in. If you were stood around, you were in the pit. If you were up on top, you were still right in. It really had like, and I know we talk about we all do when you're into wrestling. You talk about it in these really grand, unnecessary terms, but like it was very Colosseum. It was gladiatorial. This like it was. I can imagine that's one of those that you're like, oh, I'd love to do a show there to have been in the ring, because I think about like one of the things I love is the crowd being close, but yeah, people being up 3 of the 4 sides and having that real like, are you not entertained? But like, yeah, that venue was something else.
Just having somebody in the audience be like, yes.
I'm going to see if we can run it Stylist. I don't know if it's still there, but that'd be a great idea. Instead of, a lot of people want to do the World of Sport style rounds gimmick now. We should do like a Colosseum gladiatorial set where you've just elect an emperor from the crowd and have them give you the old thumb up, thumb down on, yeah, who's the good guy, who's the bad. Everything's a gauntlet, and they have to give you the old like win-loss.
Just once, just to sort of see if it's even doable. That'd be amazing. But yeah, that venue is, obviously I still go to Tidal. I love Parish, but that to me is, I went to Tidal when it first started in Cockpit. I've been to numerous venues, but that is the iconic one for me, kind of thing. That's kind of, that's Tidal's MSG for me, kind of thing. It's those, because I went to, was it Halo they did for a little bit? That was a really good venue, but it just wasn't the same. I enjoyed the show at the Academy, which was obviously, it had like a bigger feel, but like, yeah, there was something about that venue, man. Just, it's that closeness in it. I think the beauty, again, we talk about wrestling in weird terms, but that beauty of wrestling for me has always been a little bit different to sort of the WWE vibe with the 5 feet and the barrier, and then you're way off in the nosebleeds. The beauty of BritWres, especially of live wrestling, is that everything's just there. Like, you may get sweat on you, like you may get covered in snot, like everything is just there. And like that venue was a perfect example of it. But yeah, venues in general, I think that's the beauty of wrestling. I think we all want that beautiful aesthetic of like, oh, look how nicely laid out a WWE arena is, but like that everything should be tight, people squeezed in, and like, yeah, it's a different vibe completely. But that kind of pulls me towards the BlackHeart side of things, man. Obviously, I've never had the pleasure of being there personally. Obviously, you know this. I follow you like faithfully on YouTube, or I did on a weekly basis. I watch the shows, when I can online.
I'm sorry about that. You're the only one that got an apology about the weeklies. I had to extend a personal apology before we'd announced it, knowing that you were a regular weekly viewer. I was like, mate, I'm really sorry.
I know, I get it. But yeah, the Geisley Theatre, man. That's. We was talking before I hit record about it, and I'm sure it'll come up in a second. Like when, just you just use the word theatre, you think, oh, I'm working in a theatre, it's grand, but it's close as well. Like obviously, from what everything I've seen, the audience are sat, just far enough away, but close enough that they're part of it. You can hear them, they get invested in the action, and that's, we touched, man, like you sort of said, to see BlackHeart online is to enjoy it. The characters, the stories, everything's great. To be there in person, that's captivating. That's captivating. That's when you get your thing, kind of thing. If you go see a BlackHeart show live, you pretty much know you're coming back to the next one.
Yeah, I like to feel that that's what it is, and I think that happens. We don't have a transient audience at all. We don't seem to see, we're free this weekend, so we'll go. We seem to get, particularly the core, the same people attending a BlackHeart show, and have since day dot. We got told at the beginning of the year, actually, that someone couldn't book a family holiday because when they'd looked at the dates, it fell on our September show, and he was like, his daughter just was like, well, we'll have to look at different times. And I was like, that's mad to me, because I think because you can remember being that fan. Like I can distinctly remember my obsession with, it was it's always been Triple H for me, but I can remember my obsession with wrestling and a wrestler, and that idea of like it being the same to someone is mind-boggling, really. But like, that's really cool. It's what gives you hope. Those days that you sit and you're like, well, we could do with another. Well, you could always do with another 36 to 100 people attending everything, but like, we could do with some more. And then you get there and you're like, nah, it's fine. Like, if just this handful of people turn up, like, they're what we're doing it for anyway. But yeah, that seems to be the vibe, and like, credit to the theatre as well, because we went to them with essentially a hope and a dream, and being like, listen, we've run one show in a school gym. It was awful. We can't show you the footage from it because we bought £12 Argos cameras and tried to record them on those, and it's awful. But we really think that this could be cool. We like the storytelling thing. This is less about the fighty. And they were just like, yeah, man, come in. And they've been awesome with us. We're now at a stage with the theatre where we've got keys. We just run. They send volunteer. They run the doors and things for us. Their ticketing systems. But yeah, our ring stored in their workshop. We let ourselves in on a Sunday morning, set up and things, and pack down. And so that vibe sort of I feel like that's the loose vibe that runs through BlackHeart as well. This sort of like, yeah, everyone's here to do this thing, and it's fun. I think that comes across. I'm not going to say that we don't put work in, because Breeze would be really upset if I didn't point out the hours of him coming up with stuff and me on a whim, which we can get into some of my random whims later, but me just on a whim trying to change my mind, and him then having to make it make sense. But like, I think a lot of it is just sort of like, yeah, this kind of works. We've got some fantastic characters. Any show that's got Sean Only on knows, like, it's absolutely criminal that he just isn't everywhere. Like, it's criminal that he's available for us every Sunday of the month. Like, he shouldn't be at all. I should be having to book 2026 Sean Only now to make sure it's a joke to me, mate. But he is available, thankfully. So anyone watching, please don't book Sean Only, because I need him. But like, you've got a guy like Sean Only. For some reason, we've been blessed, and Dan James has decided that coming back to wrestling, he will do it at BlackHeart first, and that's nuts, because I remember watching him get carried out of the academy with toilet roll spilling out of his bag at a Tidal show, and being like, this guy's a next level villain and has figured it out, and he's like, oh, you guys are cool, like, I'll come back there. So we've got his brain, and then we've got people, we've got unsung gems. Like, we had Billy O'Keefe before anyone else realized what a joke he is. We had Jester back when he was that's Breeze's best mate from high school. Like, that guy's an absolute joke and will do whatever you need to. Sammy Blue's phenomenal. Muttley's a moron with a mullet. Like, these guys that were just I'd love to take credit for, but most of my time is sitting and them saying, here's all this cool stuff that we could do, and me then trying to like, ooh, I think it would be cool if it's this. Then we give it to Breeze, and he makes it make wrestling sense. So there is a lot of work, but we're absolutely blessed with the people that we've chosen to work with. It makes it so much easier, mate. So much easier.
You know, I echo the Sean Only sentiment. I love Sean. He's been on the show several times now for various different things. I think, definitely tell, his fingerprints. If I had him on my card, he would be someone that I talk to. I would pick the brains of. Somebody else to mention as well is, and for me, this is a perfect analogy of BlackHeart. I think why BlackHeart works so much for me is that you got Sean, you got the Wrestle Island side of things, you got the Temple, you got Ellis Parker, who obviously the pursuit side of things, heavily involved. And for me, you kind of thought you had Ellis and Sean, and then they were pulling in people from both ways, and it was just you had such an like Chili Heatwave is now rocking it up, at BlackHeart.
Yeah, what a lad.
Yeah, Mr. Ricky, Chili Heatwave. Guys from PPW, you got guys from Temple, like you said, Gung Ho, Jay, Billy, Sammy. It's just this amazing collection of talent from a few different places that are getting to work together and have fun.
I think talent's key. But I think talent, it also has to be, look, there's square pegs and there's round pegs, and we can make the analogy about holes that they go in. But like, I think what we've managed to round off a little bit now as well at BlackHeart is our crowd want a certain thing. So a lot of the stuff that we've put out as far as Unleashed has been pretty good wrestling. I think it's been probably some of the best wrestling that we've had. Particularly, obviously, the live shows are different, but sort of the pre-recorded stuff. But I think it's different to what our live crowd want. We've made this sort of analogy. Look, we've put on some unbelievable wrestling matches, and like you don't have to see them to understand. We had Liam Slater wrestle Leon Slater. That you could have sat the other way and you knew you were watching something phenomenal. But the reaction that got in the back was way different to the reaction that it got out in our crowd. And the reason is because our crowd clapped along. They thought it was fantastic. They understood that they were watching fantastic wrestling. But they were there to listen to Jester waffle rubbish for 7 minutes on a microphone. Our crowd were there to watch Gungo Muttley backflip after taking a sunner. They wanted what we do, and we tried to give them what we thought was really good wrestling. And again, is really good wrestling. It isn't an opinion, that's a fact. But we tried to give them that and realised, well, that's not what they want. Like, our crowd seemingly don't want... I mean, sure, I'm sure they want that balance. They want some good wrestling. But I think we were talking about this in the run-up to BlackHeart 4. No wrestling show ever should be headlined. I think Jepson's fantastic. Should be headlined by me and someone else. But after the year of what we'd been through, our crowd just really wanted to see his face get smacked. And so, like, that wasn't the best match. It wasn't the best match of that night. But, like, that's what they wanted in that slot. And I think we've got into this nice groove now of, particularly when you said about bringing people in, Sean Only's fantastic at it, but he's not looking at, this is the best guy I've got in the temple. He's looking at like, people will react to Gala and EJ. People will react to Candy Stan. Like, he may have better wrestlers. And in the same way, Ellis is at PPW thinking, well, obviously Nathan Black's class. We know that Liam's class. Like, everyone's very good. But actually what your crowd want is Chili thrusting his crotch at people. Like, it's trying to find those balances of like, yeah, he's going to do a good wrestles. That's fine. But like, is he going to connect with the people like we want him to? I think that's where we've sort of got better at taking recommendations, not always, sadly, on like the strength of work, but on character as well. It has to be important. How someone is in the back. We don't want a locker room of... And it's hard because we do, like you say, we've got some UK dub guys, we've got some PP dub guys, we've got guys from Fountains, we've got guys from Wrestle Island, but we don't have 4 pockets in the dressing room. We've got a group of idiots merging together and trying to have fun. In fact, most people are just milling around where Sean Only is stretching on his towel to try and gather what nuggets he might drop of wisdom. It annoyed me, actually, whilst we're on him, his episode... You rightly put to him about the help that he's given us, and he did that annoying, mate, like, play it down. Like, nah. What he doesn't realise, I think, is that when he thinks me and him are just chatting, I'm making notes. Like, I think he doesn't realise how much, what an impact he's had. I think Ellis is the same. I don't think Ellis realises the impact that he's had. I think they think we're just chatting, and I'm like, So, yeah. We'll put him straight. He's been very important and continues to be very important.
Definitely. I must admit, I popped huge when, because I've been, obviously, I talked to Gung Ho quite a lot as well, kind of thing. And I was just like, he talked about, his prime example, the whole Mr. the Creed, Gung Ho, saving Creed from the Academy storyline, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And I was just like, right, come on, let's get this building. I know there's got to be it's got to come to an end. It's coming to an end. And I thought, I wasn't aware of anything before. I only got to see it when I got to watch the show on YouTube. And then he turned up, and I was like, yes, Mr. Ricky's back. Because for me, that was what it was. I was just like, he needs to come back. I need to.
Yeah.
I think sadly, it'd been missed. Everybody involved had done a really good job carrying it and getting it to where it needed to be. But then when Ricky turned back and he turned face, I was like, no, what is going on? It was just like, yeah, man, that popped me huge. But that's a prime example of, like I said, getting recommendations from different people. you know straight away Ricky's got to come in and he just fits. You know, he's got that character.
Yeah.
You know, Planet Wrestle, same sort of thing. You know, it's very family show. You know, give them a mic, they can wind the kids up. They'll antagonize the audience if needs be. Same sort of thing. Planet Wrestle, BlackHeart. It's very similar energy in that sense. So as soon as I saw him at Planet,
different planets in the same Marvel universe. I think Planet again. It's Jakey's broken brain. Like, of course, it's going to spill out some nonsense that just makes sense. Like, I think it's when you see wrestling the same way. Look, again, I'd love for us to be doing countrywide tours and selling thousands of tickets. I wouldn't actually, it'd drive me insane. I'd love for that to be a thing, but I really love what BlackHeart has sort of become. I think I was watching, because you asked me before about the layout and format. I watched 99% of the videos, and I was watching the breakdown with Jeebus and Nikki, and it was Jeebus's like, for a small promote, like, how are they doing this thing? I know we're not allowed to say small.
it's more.
We're infinitesimal. Like, we are an absolute speck in the ocean, right? Even locally, like, we're in Leeds, where there's Tidal and there's Rise and there's, like, I know we're deliberately out of Leeds city centre, but, like, we are tiny. But, like, I do feel like once people come, they sort of see, like, oh, this is different. They're not trying to, and everyone's got a bit of a niche. Rise, we know it's going to be violent. It's going to be mad. I mean, it is Britain's maddest wrestling show. And Tidal's going to be very technical, True Grit's heavily story, and BlackHeart's I guess, considering we're in a theatre, I think where those other promotions are tragedy and comedy and plays and musicals, and where pantomime, yes, we're on the stage in the same way, but it's very different. Like, you need to be shouting back at us. Like, it's a very different vibe. Like, don't come expecting Macbeth, because that's not what you're going to get. You're going to get Cinderella. Like, it's what we do, unfortunately.
Henri Winter is one of the ugly sisters.
Henri Winter's very first dash into any sort of portraying was one of the ugly sisters when I was at school, and it was unfortunately a role that fit me far too well.
But no, you're right. I mean, like I said, sorry, I was just saying about just Nikki's uncomfortableness on that episode. Like, she wanted to say small, but she didn't want to say small. It was like,
just dancing around. It's like the word fake. There's words that you don't want to say because you think it's going to be insulting. Like, we are small. Like, it's fine. No one's bothered. We survive. That's what's good. We survive. It's fine.
Not the size of the dog in the fight. It's the size of the fight in the dog. You can be small, but you got
heart. Pun intended.
But yeah. So obviously, to you then, dude, because like you sort of said, you kind of experienced BritWres for the first time with Tidal. You kind of, the penny dropped. It's like, oh shit, this is something we can do over here. There's going to be schools.
Yeah.
But I can do this. So dude, what kind of, was it a case then of like hitting the internet, seeing what schools were kicking about? Obviously, you knew people. Did you speak to people at Tidal? Get recommendations? What was the fact? What got you through the door in the first place?
So the very first training school advert I ever saw was driving through Batley, and it was hand painted on a wooden plinth, just saying wrestling training and a mobile number. And I was just like, luckily I'm in my late 20s and I'm a big guy, but that's the dangerous, like, that's not right. So that really triggered the, like, I didn't call it, but that really triggered the, wrestling schools is a thing. And then I was in the Pure Gym in Leeds and saw Rampage working out, and didn't realise that I was a Rampage fanboy until I saw him in the wild and came over all 14-year-old girl and like, oh, and went over and said, I kept walking past thinking like, oh, I'll just bump by and be like, "Sup, bro?" And weirdly, as I walked past him once, he was just like, "You alright, mate?" And I was just like, "Yeah." Like, so we got chatting. I was just like, "Oh, I'm like a fan." And he recommended locally Grapple, and he recommended he's very tight personally with Mustafa Khan. So he said, like, obviously go find Monty at UKW. And I was just like, look, I'm 29. Like, I'm not gonna start wrestling. This is madness. Like, I've played football, like I've played rugby. Like, I can't start. My body's broken. Like, I'm not gonna start throwing it at the floor for fun. That seems madness. But I chatted to a lad at work, and we were like, right, let's see if we can do a charity thing. We'll do a charity match. It'll be funny. We'll go down to Grapple, and we'll learn to train. We'll train. Paul was super into it. He was like, yeah, sound, this can be the place that you do it. I distinctly remember that first day of training him saying like, oh, you ready? And me saying, yeah, what's the worst that can happen? And his demeanor changing, him going, well, you could die. Well, yeah, cool. My very first bump, I hit my head so hard I gave myself a concussion. I rolled out of the 6-sided ring and threw up. And he just went, ha ha ha, try again. And I was like, oh, that's what this is. So we did some training at Grapple. The charity match thing never happened. And then I can't remember what the events were, but I ended up not ringing that weird number, but realizing that number was for UKW, which was considerably closer. And so I started going down to UKW and just fell in love with wrestling. I think people say it a lot when you that first training session, you hit the mat and you're either going to go, right, thanks for that, see you later, and just go back to the seats, or something weird breaks inside you and you go, oh, okay, like that makes sense. And for me, I guess coming into it so late, I got to experience it differently. Like I had this conversation once with Ellis. I had this conversation with Leon. Starting younger and sort of learning wrestling whilst watching wrestling, they had like a different appreciation for it. But for me, it was very much like, you remember the Magic Tricks Revealed, the old masked magician thing, where I was just like, what? This is how this thing happened. Like, it was very, and I think that's either going to turn you off or turn you on. And I was just like, whoa, what about this? And what about this? And that, being able to unpick this thing that I'd always loved was like this is mind blowing. Like, learning everything was just, it was everything. And so yeah, that got me going. The plan was always, I'll have a match. My poor long suffering wife was like, okay. And then after I'd had a match, it was like, oh well, what about if I just try and win a title? She was like, yeah, okay. And then I did that, and I was like, well, what about if I try and win a title outside of the place that I train? She was like, yeah. She was like, listen, why don't you just admit that you're in this now and stop this weird facade where you pretend to me, but I know and you don't. And we just accepted that this was it, that like wrestling until I'm physically incapable. I think the number of times it's become a joke. The number of times I've already retired is obscene. Anytime you pick up a knock, I'm like, I think that's it, and then you carry on. Like, I'm hurt at the minute, but I'm wrestling November, so it's fine. Like, I think once you're in, you can't. You understand why people come back at 50, 60. Like, it's not a payday. I don't think. I think you need to be in front of that crowd, and it affects you, man. Like, I was trying to I can't watch myself back. Thankfully, I've got Sean Only to send me voice notes about the things that I've done wrong. But like, I can't watch myself. And I tried to rewatch the match from September. And I thought when I came out, I did a like, come on, Geisley. But then when I'm watching it back, it becomes this weird guttural growl. I'm just like, that's real. That's just, in that moment, something happens and you're like, oh, this is a thing. Like, that's what you're chasing. It's got nothing to do with anything else. It's that weird vibe that you seem to get from a crowd. It's so strange, mate. So strange.
Like I say, I can only imagine, the people I talk to, it's like, it's, the kind of, it's the adrenaline. It's like, say, it's that buzz, it's that feeling. It's like, I've heard 100 times kind of thing, like sort of saying, that's adrenaline's the best painkiller in the world for a start, but it's the feeling as well, kind of thing. It's that buzz, like you sort of said, it's why, Flair can never fricking retire. You know, never mind the payments. He wants the buzz as well, kind of thing. And you know, bless RJ Singh. I think he's had about 3 retirements, and he kind of realizes that I'm still really fucking good, so I'm going to come back and do it anyway.
You just need to do it. And you're right. Like, obviously, the pain aside, like in the moment, you don't realize anything. We were joking. So that match I had with Jepson in September, we finished, and one of the downsides, obviously, to running a wrestling company is once you finish and you beat up and you're tired, we've got to deck the ring, carry it down a fire escape, and put it away, which kind of does a job of preventing stiffness because you're cooling down a little bit. But I realized the next day that I had this, like my entire left bicep was bruised, and I was like, oh, phenomenal. Like, I've obviously pulled something in there. We couldn't work it out, and so we're on daily bruise watch. I was sending pictures to Breeze and to Andy, and then a week after the bruise had disappeared, I went to like push myself up off the bed, and like my arm gave in, and I was like, oh, what's happened? And I'd dislocated my left wrist and fractured my right. But because I was so obsessed with this bruise on my arm, I hadn't noticed that anything else. I'd not been able to like use my arms a great deal. I'd not noticed these, so I had to have this cracked back in, and I had to wear like a bit of a splint. But like, you don't realize these because like it's true what people say about distraction. But yeah, you sort of just move on randomly and don't realize what's going on. But yeah, they were interesting one. I've no idea when I did it. With what I've tried to watch it, I can't figure it out. I assume it's just absolutely massive.
Be one of those things, man. You just landed, or it can be the smallest thing sometimes. Just
I don't know. I think he's so massive. I give him a big chop, and I think that's fractured my wrist. I think he's so enormous. I've hit him, and my wrists broke first. Yeah, that's what's happened. His chest's gone. Nah. Yeah,
that's how Jepson is. Yeah, don't fuck with Jepson. You'll break your wrist.
Do not.
Just through your some chest alone.
Just mass alone.
Talk about obviously, you kind of saying you got into this for the, to have that charity match. That match never happened, but in a full circle kind of way. I know we were talking beforehand. Obviously, I know you've partnered up, with a charity. An amazing cause. It just seems like an obvious thing now. You're talking about getting into wrestling in the first place to have a charity match. Now you're in a position where you can help a charity out. You can shine light on a charity. Bring what it's doing and let people know about it.
Yeah. So,
yeah, I just want to take this moment. It makes sense to do it now. This charity. Be about it. I'm a dad. My kids are my world, kind of thing. You know how I feel. Anybody on social, you'll see. We're always doing stupid shit together, kind of stuff. Whether it's bottle flipping or any, just this, that, or the other. So yeah, this charity, dude. What's the crack?
Yeah, so a bit of a TLDR, but I'll try and condense. I was randomly scrolling LinkedIn, and I've got a friend. We'll give her a shout out, Lauren, who works for a fantastic charity called Pregnant Then Screwed, all about maternity, paternity rights, and that sort of stuff. And she'd shared a sort of semi-related article about child poverty in the UK. And I don't know why I clicked on it. Like, when you know that I shouldn't click on this thing because it's going to ruin the rest of my day. This was like a random Wednesday lunchtime. I'm like, clicked on this thing, and it brought up this recent study of there's 4.5 million children in the UK live in poverty. And I was like, there's only 70 million humans in the UK. That's insane. If it was 4.5 million people, you'd be like, that's still insane. And that then I sort of got down into the weeds of, obviously, like you get the obvious stuff of like kids are going to be hungry, they're not going to have new stuff and all that. Obviously upsetting stuff. Again, as a parent, I was just like, I was shook, is what I guess the kids would say. And I couldn't wrap my head around this at all. And it led me down this weird LinkedIn rabbit hole where I found, I've still yet to figure out how to say it, actually. I've been saying Zarak. I don't know if it's Zarach, but hopefully they'll accept the money either way. This fantastic charity in Leeds where some of these kids, the poverty that they live in is so extreme that they don't have a bed. And it really, I know Henri Winter's more macho than James, but it really broke my heart, this idea of like a kid being, because kids are smart, man. Kids know that they're growing up in poverty. So this kid knowing that they've got nothing, being hungry, being tired, having to wear like old uniform that maybe doesn't fit them and put on old trainers to play out with the friends who probably are horrible to them because kids are the worst. Then having to come in and sleep on the floor, man. And I was just like, that's horrific. Like it genuinely, I was sat in the office and someone was just like, are you all right? Have you had some bad news? I was just like, man, like we've all had some bad news. Like this is horrific. And I was just like, it's really easy to sit indignantly and be like, oh, this is awful. I was like, do something then, mate. Like you wanted to wrestle, so you did something. You wanted to play football, so you tried. Like I spend a lot of time telling my two little girls, like, whatever you want, if it's dance, we put everything into dance. If it's rollerblading, we put everything into rollerblade. Like we commit to something when we find it. And I was just like, right, we're gonna do something. So I messaged. Unfortunately, Adam tends to be the idiot. BlackHeart fans will know Adam Burnett, who I'd also roped into co-host. Poor Adam, roped into co-hosting Unleashed with me. Roped into doing the music and lights for me at a live show. He wrote Henri Winter's new music. He wrote the BlackHeart theme song. But years ago, we did a Macmillan golf day, 72 holes in a day. I was just like, man, let's just do that. That's easy for us to do. Like, we just pay for the golf course. We'll do that. We'll have less time because instead of doing it on the longest day of the year, we're going to do it on the 25th of October when there's, I think, 9 hours and 45 minutes of daylight. So we're going to try and play 4 rounds of golf in less than 10 hours. Neither of us being very good. So we're talking, I think the last time we did it, it was over 500 shots each. And then because when I take a bite, I'd take a bite too much, I decided, I know what I'll do. For 7 days before the golf day, which my wife pointed out was even dumber because I'm going to be horrifically sore on Friday, I'll sleep on the floor. That'll be I'll be able to like experience what people are experiencing. And my thoughts were, the more I suffer, the more people open the wallets. There must be plenty of people that think, I'd love that you're sleeping on the floor. Here's a tenner. But mate, it's horrific. Like I started on Friday, I hurt all over. And like, obviously I'm a little bit heavier than a 10-year-old. So like the floor is affecting me more, but like I'm sleeping in sort of half-hour chunks and then having to move. You don't think about how cold it is where the drafts are. So like I'm at 3 o'clock in the morning putting cushions everywhere to try and like prevent any drafts that I'm randomly finding. I'm so run down that I've started with a cold this morning. I'm just like, it should be knocking me down, but I'm a bit more like, hey, I'm a grown-ass man and I've chosen to do this. Like, if this is how I feel, like, again, imagine those kids that are like having to then go to school. And that's the point of the charity. It's a school teacher that started it. Was like, she's seeing kids come in who she already knows are struggling and then just being dead on the feet, just knackered and not being able to concentrate. And you're just going to continue that cycle. They're not going to do well at school, and they're not going to go on and be able to drag the family up out of it like they would want to. And you're just like, mate, what's this? So their thing is, I think it's 150 quid they can provide. It's a bed, a mattress, all of the sheets and stuff to a family. So we're just like, right, let's say 500 quid. If we can raise that, that's three beds and an extra 50 because I can't deal with not round numbers. I'm like, let's just push, man. Let's see what we can do. And then it was afterwards, I was talking to BritWres about it, and he, as a parent, was like, well, so BlackHeart should help as well. I'm like, yeah, man, let's do. And we'd never done that sort of, any sort of like partnership. I'm like, let's do it. Like, we'll set up some buckets for loose change. We'll do that. We've got some, let's just throw some ideas. We've got some ideas for like a rock and wrestling type night that we might do at the theatre where we have some bands on. We'll probably rope Adam in again, but don't tell him. We'll have some bands on performing. We'll do some wrestling in between, do like a couple of songs and a match, try and have like a some sort of concert thing. But yeah, we'll do some more stuff. We'll do some raffles and some BlackHeart related things. I'll drop this one. I've been bugging BritWres for 3 years now that I want to try and do a 24-hour wrestling match. People have done longer, but that should be a thing that we do. So it might not come off straight away, but that's something that I'm chipping away at. That's going to be a fun. Let's try and do this thing. But yeah, we've got some stuff coming up. At the minute, it's the golf day and me being an idiot and sleeping on the floor. But yeah, man, I just felt like, yeah, we've done charity stuff before, but this one was like it really got to me, and I was like, got to do something, mate. Can't just talk about it. Got to try and do something.
Obviously, find me the details over when we finish talking. I'll put them in the episode description. If you want to find any information about obviously what we just talking about, please go into the episode description. It will all be there. I'll make sure to link, the website in and things like that. So if you can help out in any way, please do so.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Sorry to jump on you. That's what I've been trying to stress as well. People talk about, like, all of our posts I've tried to finish with a bit of give generously, but please give responsibly. Like, what we don't want in an effort to help people is other people putting themselves into a bad situation. So a like and a share, a message to say you're an absolute fucking idiot, but well done, keep going. That's as valuable as monetary donations. When we did, it was 5 years ago when we did the Macmillan Day, we were getting donations, but we were getting messages through the day, and genuinely there was points that we were just absolutely knackered and dead on his feet, and you'd get like a ping, be like, right, people know we're doing this, mate. We're gonna have to. Shame should drive us on. So yeah, like if people have got 50p, don't give us that, but like it, share it. One of your mates might be in a better position. Like, give generously but responsibly as well. Let's not create more problems.
No, I totally agree. I spoke to the Hot Tag Foundation recently, and same sort of thing. I sort of said with them is never underestimate the importance of sharing something. It's why I try and share everything that I can do on socials. If even if it's not something that gets my attention, just because it's not got my attention, I might know 10 people who it would be of an interest to. So I'll share it on the off chance that they see it, and then like, bosh, there we go, kind of thing. So yeah, even if you can't do anything, like it, share it. As you just said, you might not be able to help, but there might be 5 people on your friends list that could donate a $5 and it not even, break the bank kind of thing. It's not going to make a difference.
Absolutely.
But over here. So,
there might be someone on your friends list that is in that position, and Zarek can help. Like, just you can never shine too much light on an issue. I don't think. I think the mistake, the quintessential British thing that we do is stiff upper lip and bury the head. I think in a lot of ways we need to be better at having conversations. So yeah, like stuff, share stuff, like message, like that support will go on the day. That will support will mean more to us than money, 100%.
There you go. So the Henri Winter character. Dude, obviously, like sort of say, we spoke some years ago, and we only started talking again when I kind of started, watching BlackHeart. And I was like, oh shit, and obviously Henri Winter wasn't even in the first few episodes. You was at the start doing the introductions and stuff, and I was like, oh, cool. At this point, I still wasn't aware. I didn't know that you was actually wrestling kind of thing. I'd not seen you in action. So I've got to ask, dude. Obviously, I'm looking at it thinking, Henri Winter. It's not a Game of Thrones thing, is it?
It's not, sadly. I don't know how many people know this. The Henri Winter name. Everyone's favourite thing for one is that it's an A instead of a Y. Henry with an I. That amuses people. Jonathan Cedric used to like it was Henri Winter, Henry with an I and a love heart on top. So like that was always how it was referred to. It's I went through so many ideas, and ultimately, like we've just said, the most important thing to me is my 2 girls. And one of them's Henrietta Violet. So I took a Henry from there. And the other one's Lydia Winter. So I took the Winter from there. And I was just like, and the other thing is, it's very much like, when you're 12 and you make an email address and it's just like mylongschlong@hotmail.com and you think like, isn't this hilarious? But then you're 18 and you're trying to apply for jobs. This was meant to be one match. So like it didn't matter. It wasn't going to be a thing. And then it's now 8 years later or something, and I'm still, Henri Winter. And it's fine. Like I think to most people it's just Winter. But yeah, Henri Winter with an I. It's not ideal. It's not.
No. To be fair, mate, I'm not besmirching the name because it is kind of like it was the winter aspect of it that kind of got my attention more than anything. Because the whole like
Yeah.
Game of Thrones, winter is coming. You can imagine that intense kind of like music and like you coming out and be like rah, shit. But yeah,
And
I
has
think it's a
happened.
good
There's
name.
been promotions where that's been.
There you go. See, yeah, no, I like it. I actually do like the name. I think it's a good sturdy name. It's a hearty name. Henri Winter is going to fuck
Name.
you up.
Yeah.
Right?
I think the eye probably is the big issue. But like I say, it was to be true. So Henrietta hasn't got a Y in it, so I couldn't. It had to be that, and it was never meant to be long term. But yeah, Henri Winter, interesting.
Okay, I like names spelled differently. I spell Nick N-I-K for God's sake. I drop the C. Fuck that shit. I want to be different. I'd say N-I-K.
So unique. Jimmy, we need to not that unique, but Henry the Nye, that's fine. That's just unique enough.
You kind of just got the line. Yeah, that's it. The other one, way past the line. I just want to clarify as well. Sorry, I just realised. Well, I'm not going to go back into the charity side of things, but I just want to address the name of your friend's charity because it made me chuckle. Then I kind of realised I was on camera laughing at the name when you was explaining, the heart of the charity kind of thing. But Pregnant Then Screwed, I was like,
Pregnant Then Screwed. What a fantastic name! How perfect is that name? Like, Pregnant Then Screwed. It's one of those where you can imagine that meeting where someone's just like, "What about?" and everyone's just gone, "Yeah, that one. That's the one."
Just to clarify, I wasn't laughing at the gnarliness of the kind of thing. I'm just the pure.
It's
the name.
I think it does its job. I don't think they would be upset, if I'm honest, that it got that reaction. I think that's part of the point is to get a reaction. But yeah, Pregnant Then Screwed, great name.
So yeah, obviously, the Henri Winter thing. Then, like you sort of said, then so you've gotten into the training. You're doing this. You're going back. You've tried it once. You've got the bug. Obviously, like you sort of said, you're kind of going into it. As a massive Triple H mark, are you starting off trying to replicate, trips, or are you going in there being like, right, I've got the fundamentals down, I've got the basics, what kind of move set did you envision that you were going to be sloshing out?
It was, it was early Henry Winter still now, I guess. Henri Winter's very much an amalgamation of my obsession with both Triple H and Kevin Owens. It's why I was so keen to write the Kevin Steen piece. I don't think that's going to come as a surprise to anyone that I wrestle in basketball shoes, basketball shorts, and a cut-off shirt. Like that's not in an effort to cover that I don't have Sean Only's body. Like everyone can see that. That's the aesthetic that I want to have. I had the long blonde hair. It was always wet, and I tried to flick it up out of my face. I spat water. Cayman and I both spat water together. Like there was a lot of notes taken from particularly those two inspirations. To me, Henry Winter has always been a heel. We've referenced Sean Only a lot, and in fact, talking about the heel thing, you made the point. Henry Winter at BlackHeart is still a heel. A lot of the stuff that I say, I absolutely shouldn't be getting away with, but like the crowd of attached fondness to that character, like if you laid mine and Jepson's story out to someone, if we ignore that he low blowed me and that initial betrayal, a lot of the comeback has been me slagging him off and pointing out that I'm his son's favorite wrestler, and him being a stoic and deserving champion. This is wrong. Like, this is the wrong way around. So anyone that finds BlackHeart's like, that Henry Winter's a prick. But like, for some reason in our crowd, it's worked. Like that's the character. And I think one of the things that I talked about a lot in the early days when you're trying to build a character is I kind of want him always to be honest. I want him to always say what he's thinking and tell the truth. And sometimes that's going to be a negative thing. A lot of the time, like of the 8 years, 7 of them really have been heel Winter. A lot of the time it's going to be negative, but there is going to come a point where people are like, he always tells us what he's saying, and you sort of respond to that. But the babyface Henri Winter was never meant to be. It's the twice it's happened has both been random. It happened at UKW when I'd got legitimately injured and said that I was going to take some time off, but then got asked to come and do commentary one Friday night and was like, okay. And the entire my plan was to ruin commentary, like to make it about me and to just be awful to whoever was in the ring. And for some reason, people were like, huh, that was funny. You're like, no, that wasn't the point though. Like the point was supposed to be that I was trying to hijack what was going on. I was just talking rubbish. But like people attached to, I mean, they still used things that I'd said in jest about people as like now kayfabe things at UK Wrestling. And I'm like, all right, so that's a thing. So Winter came back briefly at UKW as a babyface. And at BlackHeart, it's just been, obviously I'm there a lot. I'm there before shows, during the shows. So I think people have attached Henri Winter at BlackHeart's probably the closest to James. So I think that's obviously helped things. It'd be difficult now for me to be, considering that people see me before and during the show as James, it'd probably be really difficult for heel Winter to be a thing at BlackHeart. Especially when I do, I mean, if I keep making kids cry during the interval, that
I was going to mention that. I was going to mention that. I had to bring that up, mate. That was seriously one of those moments where you're just like, yay, I'm now a face. Yay, I'm now the face of the company. I've got the belt. What's the first thing I'm going to do? I'm going to make a child cry.
Mad. I mean, the thing is, for so long as a heel, that's been the goal. I've made kids cry before and gone into the back and being like, yeah, I made that kid cry. I once threatened to hit a kid with a briefcase and he burst into tears and I was like, haha, yes. Because that's the point. But when you're trying to give away and to make things worse, so when we were talking earlier about my random whims where I might just decide I'm doing something differently. I've changed my mind and BritWres has to figure it out. The plan from day dot was Andy's going to turn on Winter. Winter's going to take some time off. We'll have the big comeback and it'll build to a Jepsen Winter match at BlackHeart 4. That plan was in place last September, so it's 12 months of story. What's happened in the interim is we realised that Billy wanted to do something a bit different. And I never know how much kayfabe to play. We'll pull it back. Billy wanted to do something a bit different, so we were like, yeah, we need to move the title off Billy. Jepsen makes perfect sense. We've built him as this big heel. And it was only a couple of shows before that we were like, it dawned on me that what we'd ended up with was a situation where nobody wants me as a promoter putting myself over ever, but for the title. And it was awful. Like this anxiety that I had of like, well, that was never the plan. Me and him was the plan. And now we've given him the title. So I pushed hard for us to get him to drop it earlier. Like, could I Shawn Michaels and pop out and ruin it to get him to like give me the match? And to be fair to BritWres, he was like, no, our crowd want this. Like, put your own, in weird way, ego aside. Like, never mind how you feel about it. This is what our crowd want. So I agreed to it. But literally the morning of, me and Jepsen are talking, and I'd said to him, I might just lie down. Like, I'm in charge. So what? Poor Neil's like, well, what am I meant to do? And I'm like, you'll do whatever you told me. That's what'll happen. Like, well, you'll do what happens. So like, BritWres legitimately, I don't know if you can see it in the footage. When I make my entrance, he's come around from his like commentary desk to grab me, and all he says to me is, "Don't you fuck me over." So what people see as this really like heartfelt potential moment that's him being like, I swear to God, like I will come in there. This will shoot very quick. So yeah, so after all that stress and strain, we get the perfect reaction. I'm like, okay, the crowd did want it. The very next show I come out, I upset a child. And I was just like, oh, sound. What a brilliant idea. Go grab a t-shirt from merch, get it signed up, come out and be like, yeah, this is a cool thing. Let's make the kids scream and shout and that'll be really fun. Babyface, yay. And then choose someone else, and this little girl just, I didn't even know she was with Nikki, but it wasn't even the quiver. She just bang into sob, and I was like, oh, mint. And as a girl dad, it hits you even harder because I'm like, oh, amazing. So we just went and got another tea. I was like, yeah. I think we dragged her over. I think Nikki's posted pictures, but like I think I ended up dragging every human that I could grab to come and sign and pose. And yeah, it was just like, I think it's the most boss I've ever been at a BlackHeart show, because usually people see me as like, do what you want. This is the match. Like, have fun, guys. And I was just like, now, here, this is what you're doing. You here. People looking at me like, oh, what's happening? Not ideal, mate. Not ideal at all.
You made amends, man. You made amends, and yeah, you've got, like I say, you got a fan for life. So it's all good. It's cool, and we got to sort of think, you know, she's now a proud member of the Wombats, whatever the Worsley Wombats, something. I don't know.
What is that? What a mess. What are they? I wish, honestly, mate, I wish I'd recorded the conversation that we were having pre-show when they were coming up with all of the stupid ideas. And because what people have seen, to be fair, people haven't seen yet, but what people will see is a very watered down version of what they wanted to do. Like, if you think about the idiots that he's put together there, like Majakster's not normal. I swear to God, he's not. TC is weirdly probably the most normal, but only because he's so wrapped up in his own weird, he's not saying anything out loud. And then, Chili Heatwave, like, yeah, that Chili Heatwave doesn't have a gimmick. That is the guy. And then Muttley, we're all very aware of how broken that brain is. And the four of them have just, it's not right, mate. I'll tell you one of the conversations. They were having a conversation beforehand about, because then they were Googling wombat facts, about that wombats, they crap cubes and then build walls. And they're like, is there some way that we could incorporate that? And I was like, no, obviously there isn't some way that we can incorporate that. That doesn't make sense in any situation ever for us to incorporate that. What are you talking about? And then what I'm really ashamed of, and what people will be able to hear, because I have a very distinctive voice, whilst they're wrestling, I'm sat in the corner with Adam, just shouting the stupidest things that they're going on with. So like, he's one battering him, just gets screamed at one point. And you're just like, why is this happening? It's bad enough, right, that this is happening, but it's worse that I'm enabling this behavior. Like, it's just not, I'm a bad example. Like, we need to stop people need to just listen to what Breezy says. He says it all the time. Family-friendly show. We need to behave ourselves. I come out and open the show with a promo and tell Jepson, I can't remember if I told him to piss off or if I called him a cock. And just like, why am I doing this? Like, I should definitely know better than this, shouldn't I? Like, this isn't on. It's just not. It's not the one, mate. It's very much, I guess, here's an advert for BlackHeart. The inmates are running the asylum. That's exactly what's going on. And I think that vibe carries out.
It's awesome, though. I just want to quickly shout out, because we mentioned Sean, the temple and stuff like that. Again, I popped, dude. BlackHeart popped the shit out of me so many times, but I was so happy to see kind of collaborate with Wrestle Island. You had the guys over from the temple. You kind of like a merger. I'm a big fan of British wrestling, of collaboration. I love it when promotions kind of help each other out, acknowledge each other. Everybody gets stronger through association, kind of thing. So, yeah, website, you've seen the graphics I've done. I've got True Grit on there, I've got Tidal on there. I've got BlackHeart on there now. I've got my other half's workout classes, kind of thing. I'm all for everybody helping everybody out. I love that collaboration. So yeah, when I saw you, and I've known Pete for years, I love Wrestle Island. I love what they do over there, the community. So when I saw BlackHeart were working with them, I was like, yes.
Yeah, it was just an obvious one for me. I think wrestling sometimes can be a bit tribal, and I think everyone sees that a little bit of like, oh, if you're not, you need to be in this clique, or you need to be in this clique, and if you work at this promotion, I just think it's madness to me. That's like someone only watching the BBC. Like, why? Like, why? It doesn't make sense to not acknowledge what's going on, especially when we make a real point of, I mean, we run on a Sunday afternoon, and the idea was it's not a Friday or a Saturday night. It's not in a venue where other people are like, you should be able to do what Jeebus does and hit a show Friday, Saturday, Sunday in different areas. And so what is it to us? I mean, there is Tidal occasionally run a Sunday afternoon. I'm not going to not be like, oh, what Tidal are trying to say. Nobody that's coming to Guiseley other than Jeebus is going to Paris. Like, we have different crowds for the most part who both love wrestling. So why would we not be like, Tidal are fucking cool? Like, in the same way that if they're worried about, well, first of all, if anyone's worried about us, they're deluded. But if they're worried about us, like, there's something wrong there. So, like, yeah, when it came to the Wrestle Island thing, Pete had suggested, I've got a car full of people, I think they're really good. I think they fit the character. This would be really awesome. So the first thing I did was message Pete, and Peter is going to get confused in it, is message Pete and be like, look, if we're using some of you guys, like, do you want us to, should we shout out the temple? Should we shout out Wrestle Island? And he was like, yeah, man, of course. And then they did, like, it doesn't make sense not to, does it? Like, because even if we lined up on the same day, I'm really sorry, but no one from Guiseley's like, I'm going to have to go to Birkenhead. Like, what is it? Like, we're not playing in the same pool. It just doesn't make any sense at all. We're not a threat to anyone. Despite, actually, our very first show that we ran, we did get a cease and desist from WWE, which we wear as a badge of pride, because that means they know who we are. Someone somewhere in the halls of Titan Tower are aware of BlackHeart Wrestling. But yeah, that we're not a threat to anyone. We're not a threat to anyone locally, so we're definitely not to PPW or to Wrestle Island or to UKW. Like, these are just, we're all operating in the same space. Like, why can't we talk openly about what the other one's doing? It just doesn't make. And wrestling fans are smart. I can understand it back in the day of, well, I'm a heel here and I'm a babyface there, and there's no crossover. That I can understand back in the day, but people are smart now. People get what's going on. People understand that it's like watching a movie. For these 2 hours, these actors are playing this version of this character. I think people are very switched on to that now. So yeah, that, to me, it's madness. The best example of it, so me and Jepson, we've spent 12 months at BlackHeart building to me and him in September, and the week before we were in Darwin tagging. And I was just like, what's up? People, again, no one in Darwin is watching BlackHeart. Like, and I don't think too many, again, other than Chuffing Jeebus, from like Guiseley are going to Darwin, so it doesn't make a difference. But even if it does, like, so what's the, it doesn't make a difference now. People are so much more exposed to it with these super indies, people like Matt Cardona being able to go and do different shows and play different versions of Matt Cardona has really like opened people's eyes to like, oh yeah, okay, actors in a role, that's cool.
That's it. But there's that side of it. There's also, like, I love the collaboration where, you know, you can kind of like, you're building up a promotion on the back of like another promotion using the talent. It's like my biggest plug for BlackHeart for a long time, obviously Gung Ho, Motley, you guys and stuff, was for like anybody who went to True Grit. It was like, you know, you've seen Billy O'Keefe, you know Bilzo. Dude's absolutely fucking smashing it in BlackHeart. Why are you not watching BlackHeart? You know, if you're a fan of Billy at True,
they're the same person.
It took, well, if in that one match they were. I'm not saying they were for every match, but that one match. Okay. For that one match, he decided to put the mask on and pretend to be El Bilzo. You know, so, you know, I think it's Horace's cousin or something. I don't know. It's just, but it's not. But yeah, that to me is the point of, if you know your talent is on another show, big up that other promotion, get people watching that promotion, get them watching somebody who they will fucking love because they're awesome. And then when you book that person, they're going to be like, sweet, I'm going to come to your show as well.
And like I said, everything's giving you a different thing. Like if your thing is violence and things going a bit wrong, and you like the deathmatch thing, so look, Rise aren't just a death. I hate when people do this about Rise, because I've been to Rise shows and it's been the best wrestling that I've ever seen sometimes. But if that's what you want, you are going to lean that way. If you want it to be, to me, it's probably, especially in the local scene, it's the most polished, like Fed style wrestling is True Grit. If you want that BritWres vibe, that's Tidal. If you want to come and just it be nonsense for 2 hours, that's what we're providing. So like we're looking at you're scratching a different itch wherever you go. So again, why would you not? And the other, like, I think people sometimes try too hard to dispel associations. Like, to me, we will always be UKW's little brother because that's where we essentially came out of. Like, and there's still a massive overlap. There's no secret that that's probably the bulk of our roster, particularly at the beginning. That's where we met everyone. So that's where things were sort of built from. There's no shame in that. Like, we've not gone away to compete with UKW. But if we wanted to compete with UKW, we wouldn't be in a different city on a different day on a different weekend. It was very much an alternative thing. It was we've got these ideas that I can't expect someone else to fulfill all of them. So we'll put them over here in a different place. And for a long time, we did both things. People used to, like, the number of people that would say to me, "Oh, fall out with UKW, is that why?" I'd be like, John and Joe are filming this show. Like, the two Sedgwicks are here recording this, and on Friday I was in Batley for that. Like, no, there's no beef. It's so weird, this tribalistic view to, whereas, like, yeah, man, if you're free on a Friday, go to UKW, man. It's good, and you're super close, and you will fall in love with characters. If you're free on a Saturday, if you're free on a Thursday, go to True Grit. If you're free on a Sunday and you're nearer to Huddersfield than you are to Guiseley, go to Tidal, man. If you're free for a Wrestle Island show, get over there, because what we talk about building community-wise is what they've got. Like, that crowd is. It's one bad decision away from a local shop for local people. That is a community unto itself. Like, they are. There's people there that are just there sometimes. Sean only said it to me loads. Like, there are people there that sometimes aren't watching the wrestling because it's about seeing the people that they only see at that show that once a month. Like, that's what wrestling shows should be, man. Like, that's where we should all be reaching for each other, because it's very cliche, but rising tides lift all ships. And like you've said, like, to me, Billy O'Keefe getting bigger and bigger, I'm not worried about losing Billy because I think he likes being with us. But him getting popular might make people Google where else he works and see BlackHeart online. Sean only being underutilized, maybe he should finally get somewhere that he deserves. But, like, that's just going to bring eyes to BlackHeart. When Dan James finally realizes that he should be back on the circuit properly, that's just going to get eyes on BlackHeart. I think too often we're worried about everyone's really closely holding what they've got. When, like, we all should be working for each other, really. Let's be fair.
Definitely. I agree. Again, anybody who knows me knows what I try and do through work the left side. That is exactly it. You know, I try to collaborate with everything. I'll try and hype up everything that I know about, you know, just to make British wrestling, just to show how awesome it is, you know, get everybody involved. You know, like I say, if you can't make it to this show, then I'll be damned if I'll try and make sure you know what's going on or what's happening at this show, so you don't feel like you're missing out. You know, I'll try and get video footage if I can. If I can't, I know Jeeves will. Jesus Christ, I'm just Jeeves from Wish, my reels. But
where does that guy find the time?
I have no idea. I think there's more than one.
There's multiple Jeeves. That makes sense.
It might be.
Makes sense.
I think he might be triplets. I think there's 3.
I just don't know how he hits so many shows. He's everywhere.
He's amazing.
He promotes everything so well that I think for our September show, I'd forgot what date it was, and scrolling my Insta feed found him advertising it before I found us advertising it. I was like, wow. Like, cheers, Jeeves. Like, it's madness the amount of shows he goes to. But, like, I think I was saying, I don't know if I said this at the beginning or if it was pre-recording. Like, to me, having Jeeves come to your shows more than once is a real stamp. Yeah, this guy watches so much wrestling. So for him to be like, this is worth me coming back to, like, that's mint, mate. Like, that's what you want in anything. You want anyone to give you a stamp of approval. Obviously, everyone's still that child that wants to be told that they're special. But like, when someone who watches so much wrestling exactly like wants to come back, you're like, cool. Like, there's obviously something here that appeals more than just to me making kids cry. But like, you feel like there's obviously something that's drawing people back. Just gotta keep going.
Dude, yeah, do it, mate. Because obviously, you got the Jeeves seal of approval. You've got my seal of approval, for whatever that means. I wouldn't have the BlackHeart logo associated with the left side on episodes and things like that if I didn't, believe in it, if I didn't love the product. So, but yeah, I've just clocked the time. We have flown our mark. Dude, thank you so much, for just coming on and talking and having a catch up. And
that's good, man. I'm in no rush to go to the floor, to be honest. So I wasn't paying much attention to the time.
I've got to keep an eye on it because I've said it all the time. If I hit like 125, 120, editing it is an absolute ball ache. And I stopped Hollyoaks halfway through to do this chat with you. So my other half is sat.
That's the stamp of approval.
Hollyoaks, meh. Well, Paul. So no, dude, mate, it's been amazing as well. I also don't like it to go too long. I like to keep people wanting more because I think there's definitely more we can talk about, and I think we will talk about again in a future episode. So, dude, yeah, let people know where they can get the BlackHeart information on the socials. I know Henri Winter's not overly social, so the BlackHeart.
Yeah, Henri Winter's not overly social. To be fair, BlackHeart's not as social as it should be, which is probably the bulk of our communication is you telling me to be better. We do have a Twitter. Can't remember the last time I used it, much to your chagrin. I think that's BHW UK. I think the Facebook is easy. Yeah, x.com/BHUK. I think Facebook's nice and easy. You just search BlackHeart Wrestling, YouTube BlackHeart Wrestling UK, and I think the Insta is BlackHeart Wrestling UK as well. But I may be wrong.
We'll tag you in everything as well. Anyway, obviously, my boy Ash will tag you in on Instagram. So
and he's also now harassing me for my lack of activity on social media as well. So
it's a matter for my own heart, dude. It's a matter. Mate, I offered, this is going on record now, I offered to run your Twitter for you. I was more than happy just to go on once a week, type out, like, there's a show coming out, do a match announcement. The offer's still there. So if you ever want to take me up, feel free.
I'll pull the curtain back all the way, mate. I'm happy for you to do it. If I could ever figure out what the logins are, I'd send them over to you, but I have no idea. Maybe I just need to password reset.
If you ever figure it out, just hit me up. You know where I am, dude. So open invitation, more than happy to help. So, but yeah, obviously we'll tag you in on stuff as well on Insta. Obviously I'll tag BlackHeart on Twitter. Give them a follow on Twitter if you're not, or X, sorry, whatever you want to call it. One day the account will be a little bit more sociable, I'm sure. But dude, yeah, just keep doing what you're doing. Obviously, follow them on YouTube as well. Watch the back catalogue of stuff. Unleashed has stopped, but you are still going to be uploading the monthly shows onto YouTube in 2 or 3 parts.
Yeah, the shows will still go up. Probably still in maybe 2 or 3 parts. The problem is Muttley's just so damn popular now. We don't have exclusive access to Ash to do all of our editing, unfortunately. How selfish of him, being so good at what he does.
You know what I mean? Getting into shape, putting the effort in,
Absolutely.
The character. It's just you don't know which side he's bird spotted, mate. That's the problem.
I've always hated him.
Dude, James, thank you so much. Obviously, everybody else, thank you for watching. Hit like, subscribe, share, comment, do all the generic stuff I always ask you to do at the end of every episode. Keep your eyes peeled. Obviously, I'm speaking to James tonight. I have the infamous Jet Marshall on later this week as well. So I'll be talking to him. But yeah, obviously, as always, thank you for watching. And as Brad Matthews said, always work the left side.